All right, we are back. So this is the official second episode of. We're going to call it the Task Elites podcast. So we're going to do them live, and then I'm actually going to do a podcast from here on out. We got some great questions come in overnight. So we're going to start off with Joshua Beecroft. Um, he messaged me asking for a job. Well, sadly at the moment I can't really employ anyone just due to many reasons, but for that part, I couldn't help him out. But Josh, here's what I want to do for you, mate. I want to help you out in another way. So a lot of you guys may know that I've been an operator for a lot of years, and I sort of it took me a while to get into the field. So I actually come, as you guys, I told you yesterday, I come from a background 4 generations in earth moving. However, I didn't have it handed to me. I had to work for it. So I actually went on a bit of a journey to become an operator. What I'd done was I was so desperate to become an operator that I actually got the old Fiat Alice, which was my old man's dozer out of the shed. I rebuilt the transmission, and the dozer had sat in a shed for around about 10 years. Now, in those 10 years, that machine absolutely turned to shit. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. There was water in the sump. There was half the parts were just laying in the dirt. So it took me a while to get that dozer back together. But once I got it back together, it took me around about 12 months to get it back together, and I'll be happy to share more about this if other people are interested. I want to just touch over it briefly, but once I got the dozer back together, then what we ended up doing was, sorry, I just had a bit of a blank there. Then what happened after 12 months, I got it out running. I pretty much straight away put it to work and blew the motor up. So I had to rebuild the motor. But the thing that I want you guys to understand out of all this is that I was so desperate to learn how to be an operator, and I couldn't get the shot, the go, the thing that everyone talks about. I couldn't get what I wanted. So I took matters into my own hands and made sure that I could make this happen, right? So I literally thought, fuck this. I am going to be a dozer operator, whether I have to do it myself. And that's actually what I'd done. So I went and found work on people's farm for almost nothing. I think I was working that old Fiat for around about $110 an hour. So the Fiat Alice, they're about a 14-ton dozer, so about a D5 class. No way in hell I would ever do that again. But it was great for me because I got to learn what, like, how to be a bit more efficient. I could watch the people at my job at RTL, how they drove dozers, and I could sort of reproduce it myself throughout the jobs that I was doing. So what I done was I sort of went along and I reckon it takes about 100 hours to learn how to pull the levers, right? But then it's going to take years to learn how to do a job, right? Pulling levers, one thing. I see so many people put in my comments, in my DMs and shit like that. They're like, "Oh, I've got my tickets. I've got my certification 3 in civil excavation." Cool. No one gives a flying fuck about your certification. Honestly, it is just saying to me that you have no experience, that you're on the dole and you probably just got the course for free. So that doesn't ring. That doesn't really fucking make me want to employ you. And and if that's the only experience you've got, I actually had a person who went through one of these courses, and she was telling me, she's like, "Oh, should I put the stabilizer down?" I said, "Stabilizer? What's a stabilizer?" And they meant a blade, and that shows how little these courses, like these course instructors, know about machines when they're calling a blade a stabilizer. I mean, like, yeah, all right, it does stabilize the machine, but it's a fucking blade, mate. Like, it's not to stabilize the machine. And I sort of said to her, I said, look, don't ever say that to anyone. You will come off an absolute rookie. So that's one thing I want to sort of be very clear is just because you have your tickets doesn't mean you have the experience. But sometimes just because you don't have the experience you need to make it happen. Now, I went down the complete different rabbit hole. I went and got my own machine, got it running, spent all the time. I wouldn't recommend that. If I had my time again, here's how I would do it. I would go talk to anyone I could that had a machine. And I would not ask for a job. I would say to them, is there any chance I can work for you for free? Sometimes you may even have to offer fuel money for this, right? I know that sounds ridiculous. You're like, oh, especially in today's day and age, employees are like, oh, I deserve to be paid. No, you fucking don't. You do not deserve to be paid when you do not know nothing about equipment, right? And I'm going to cop a lot of heat for this. A lot of people are going to hate this, but you got to realize that that person is quite literally letting you run the machine, burn the fuel. So you're burning the fuel on their cost. You're wrecking their machine because when you're new, you can't operate as smoothly as you need to be. So you're burning their fuel, you're wrecking their machine. You are quite often going to cause damage to their machine. Like when you're new, you aren't aware of your surroundings. You aren't aware of like into stuff. You aren't aware of like just what's going on around you. And the chances of you breaking something are a lot higher than someone who's been experienced. And that's just something that's the truth. Like there's no ifs, buts, maybes about it. That's just how it is. So my advice is go find someone that you can offer yourself to and say, hey, mate, I will work for nothing. All I want is time on the machine, right? Do I have to shovel out tracks, right? I'm pretty sure you said to me, mate, that Joshua, you said you actually are a mechanic or something like that. You're looking to shift fields. I would offer free servicing for the people. I'd be like, look, I will offer free servicing on your equipment. You for the stuff. I'll service the machine for free. I'm a fully qualified mechanic, blah, 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 or whatever, just to learn how to operate the equipment. That's how I'd go. Because if you're asking, because the problem I see is too many people ask what they want out of the world and not give before they get, right? Too many people are like, oh, I deserve this. No, you don't. You don't deserve shit. Like, and I know this is a bit of a rant, but it's the truth. And I want a lot of young people to understand this, and a lot of people trying to get into this industry. You don't deserve nothing. You deserve what you put in. So if you put in enough effort, you will get out the right outcome. But you have to put that effort in. And I want to make this abundantly clear to anyone who's looking to grow, because I hear of people all the time saying this to me. Chase, I never get a go. Oh, Chase, no one will give me a shot. Oh, mate, I've got all my tickets, but no one cares. No one does this. No shit. No one gives a fuck, mate. It's the world we live in. It's how the world works. But what you got to do is show what you can offer. For example, I used to say to a lot of young people when I was a supervisor on a job site, it's like, if you want to get on a offer to grease the machine for the head person on the site. So get there before everyone else, have everything unlocked, grease the machine, fuel the machine, shovel the tracks out. Be the assistant, be there to help the operator. Oh, is there anything I can do to make your job easier? Then at Smoko and lunch, guess what? You're going to ask that operator, can you show me some techniques? That's how you're going to start there, right? Then that head operator is going to eventually say, well, look, jump in, I'll show you a few tips and tricks. But don't ever assume that he's going to do that. Just keep trying to help him out. Helping out people makes their life easier, so that makes them want to help you more. And I hope that I'm not just rambling on here, but I really do believe that a lot of people look at what they're like, oh, I want a job in this because I want it. Yeah, well, if I'm paying you $30, $40 an hour to learn how to operate equipment, it might cost, in your mind, you might be thinking it's $30 an hour on wages. But for me, it would cost the $200 or $300 a day in fuel minimum. At the moment, it's probably like $600 because fuel's doubled. But, you've got to look at that is a cost that I would have to wear. Plus, I'd have to pay your wage. Plus, I'd have to pay for all the damages. So it doesn't really stack up. And this is why a lot of people don't want to train people. They want people with experience. And I get the argument. I don't have experience. How am I supposed to get trained? Blah, blah, blah. That's completely fair enough. But you got to understand that the reason why people say that is because of one simple fact. You're not valuable. You're not earning them money. It's a bit like apprentices. Apprentices whinge and complain about the money that they're getting paid. They're not earning anything for the company. Not in any way. I reckon for an operator become actually worth the money for a company, it'd be 3 years minimum. Before that, you're not earning a cent for the company. And smash me in the comments. Tell me I'm tell me I'm bad. Tell me whatever. But that is what I truly, truly believe is too many people do not look at the fact of what it's costing the company. They look at the fact of what they want. Doesn't matter what you want, mate. The simple fact, right? It all matters about what you can offer. So I hope that answers that question for Joshua. I know I rambled on a little bit on this part, but I really wanted that to sink into a lot of people's head. That got the tunes going apparently. It sink into people's head that sort of stuff is why people won't give you a go. So be helpful first. People will train you from there on out, and then you'll slowly get a go. But it's not going to happen overnight either. This is probably going to happen over a while. So, part 2 of this. Let's get into how I priced a dam. I know a lot of people have asked this question, and it's a question I've kept secret for a long time. And the reason why I have is because it's been my bread and butter. But the way I priced a dam was a lot of it was experience. And I know you guys are hoping for a lot more than that, but that's the truth. On my first dam, I didn't know how to price it. By my 200th dam, I learned a lot more about pricing it. So my recommendation is if you've never priced a dam, you should come in at hourly. Then you should take note of every single dam. Okay, it took X to do the dig out, right? To dig out the mud. It took Y to dig out all the clay. It took fucking Z to compact it, topsoil it, right? Now I have my baseline. But this is the problem. You guys are all working too cheap. It is, if you're a subcontractor, you're all too cheap. And that's a simple fact. You're not working for wages when you're out finding your own jobs. Because the problem is in the real world with real customers, if you come in too cheap, the only person you're hurting is the customer. And I might know you might be thinking, oh, what does that mean? Well, this is the problem. If you come in too cheap, the first thing that happens is you can't offer the product that you promised the customer because you're too cheap. You don't have the money. You're running out of money before you finish the job. I see so many people do this. They talk about, like, literally, as soon as people come into the Task Elite program, I sit down with them and it's like, mate, we need to go over your numbers. And most people are slapped in the face realizing how little they're charging. And because the problem that I find, and this is not necessarily a dam thing, this is more a the problem with this is people don't understand why they charge this hourly rate. What they do is they're like, old mate down the road, he charges X, I'm going to charge the same or a little bit more. Most of the time it's a little bit less. That's a terrible move. So they're like, that's how they get their benchmarks. But they don't truly understand what their operating costs are. They don't break down what does it cost to replace this machine. You know, I've been told by a lot of people I was really expensive. Fuck yeah, I was. I'm proud of that. I had to be. I wanted to replace equipment. I wanted to have good operators. I wanted to have good jobs. The only way you can do it is with more money. It's that fucking simple. So back to the dams. How did I price them? In the end, I had a minimum standard of what I would price a dam, no matter what. Minimum. That minimum standard was there to protect myself from me, right? to be like, oh, maybe I could just do it for this. No, the minimum was X. I had to have that amount of, or else I would not do it. So the other thing that I would recommend if you're in that position, you're looking to price a dam, is I would say in every dam that's around about 30 years old, there's a minimum a meter to a meter and a half of snot. That is just how it is. A meter to a meter and a half of snot. And you might be thinking, oh, I can drain it. It'll be a lot easier to deal with. No, it won't. You have to drain the dam, yes, but that material is like nothing you've ever worked with. It is pure mud. It runs like water, but doesn't run exactly like water. So a lot of people have these bright wave ideas that they're going to dig up the wall and they're just going to push it through with the dozer and it'll just push through. It doesn't work. I've tried it many a times. The only way that I found to deal with the mud was to have the dozer windrow all the mud up while the digger's throwing it over the wall. Now, how you deal with the mud is how you end up with a good presenting work, right? So if your work looks like shit after the mud's been dug out, it's because you didn't think about what you're going to do with the mud. There's two types of ways that I've seen people deal with it. Throwing it over the wall and leaving it, it looks like shit forever, or they just spread it out over the paddock. I don't recommend any of them. I reckon the only way you could really truly deal with the mud properly is you can either bury it, which is good, but it does slump, or you can, well, if you do the bury part right, it does work, but you got to know what you're doing. Don't know what you're doing, it will fail. Then you've got to you could either do that or you can put it out for it to dry and then come back in 12 months time and spread it out. Now, burying it does take about 3 times longer. So it makes the job look perfect at the end, but it does take a lot longer. So sometimes you got to go backwards and forth on with the customer and be like, hey, what are you looking for? You know, we can either bury it or we can spread it out. Spreading it out, we'll come back in 12 months. We'll get that sorted for you then. But you're going to have a mess at the end. I personally opted for the bury method because I looked at it. If it slumped a little bit, it was nothing for me to come and fix that little bit up. Versus if I spread it, it was an eyesore for a long time. It's something the old man taught me, that people remember the quality of your long after they've forgotten the price. And I think that's a big bit of advice for a lot of people getting into the industry. But what I also want to talk about is a little bit of pricing competitively. The problem is we are all conditioned into pricing competitively. And I do not like that. I actually hate how so many people try to price to win work, to price to be the lowest, to be the cheapest, or they're like, oh no, I'm the dearest. No, you're not, mate. You're far from it. I see too many people that come to me and they're like, oh, Chase, I charge a lot more than most. Oh, yeah, elaborate on that. Tell me more. You know, and then it's like, they tell me, it's like, mate, you're not even close to where you really need to be. Because here's how it sort of works. A lot of pricing is taken from big business. Now, big business have multiple streams. You know, like when I used to work for A1 Civil, they used to have, you know, asphalt and this, that, so that they could absorb the costs that you can't. You've got one machine that's making your primary income. If you don't know how to make that work, then all you're going to end up with is you've essentially traded in a job that was secure for a job that is now, you've bought the machine to earn probably less money. But not only that, now you've gone from the secure position on site, because, you know, there's rights to employees and stuff like that, to being sort of less than dog shit. Like, a labourer gets kept on before you. The labourer stays when the subcontractor leaves. And that's backwards, but that's just how subcontractors work. Like, if you're a subby, even if you're really good, mate, when business come to the crunch point and they're like, oh, we just need to do everything in-house because it's cheaper, you're the first person that goes. And that's the simple fact. So I guess I've probably rambled on enough here about this, but I want something to sink in a lot with the two messaging here, right? So if you're looking to get a job in earth moving, you need to help out someone. You need to figure out how you help people out. But if you're looking at pricing a dam, you need to start by putting your balls on the line or going by hourly hire. But start knowing your numbers. Start knowing what everything costs. Does it cost? How much does it cost for me to do that job? Right, now I can say it cost me X. Let's start doing some pricing. But I hope that answered your question there, Ryan. I hope that answered your question there, Josh. But anyway, guys, that's it for today. I'm going to be back on tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock, and we're going to go from there. All right, guys, see you tomorrow.